All right. Well, we don't want to keep you too long, but we unfortunately did want to bring you on because, there was a recent tragedy, a recent act of terrorism that shook the nation, anti-Asian killings that occurred in Atlanta. You were very quick to act alongside your brother, might I add, along
Yeah.
with many other prominent figures in jiu-jitsu. You launched a fundraising campaign. This fight is sub only for Stop Hate, and you released a series of merch that's all the proceeds are going to different charities. Talk to us a little bit about this initiative, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's been really, really tough. I mean, like the past year has been just kind of like, I think a lot of it was just kind of like, what the fuck moments of just like, this stuff's really happening. And then I think with the last year, you're just seeing all these videos popping up of just people like assaulting Asian women and like knocking over old men and old women, and people are dying. And it's just, it's weird, frankly. It's like, it feels like you're watching something out of like a third world country, like a war torn country or something like that. Um, and it's, if I'm honest, like I think I've been losing sleep over it. It's just because, as someone from the Asian community, um, telling your relatives to like sending them tasers and batons just so they can go out and go to work or get groceries is absurd. It's sad. It's really sad. Um, and like, we've already spent a year staying home to stay safe, in a health sense. And then now we're telling people that they have to stay safe from being assaulted. You know what I mean? And so, and I said this in the post too. It's just like, coming from a jiu-jitsu perspective, I think a lot of us join jiu-jitsu because we've been victimized, we've been bullied at some point. Someone took advantage of us, or we just have the urge to, hopefully it doesn't happen, but like maybe someday we have to protect someone we care about. I mean, that was a motivation for me to start too, is like, not just defend myself, but like, if I have to protect my wife or anything like that. And of course it's given us a lot more than just the self-defense aspect. But it just drives me crazy, because a lot of these attacks, they're specifically targeting people who are older, weaker, smaller, and they're doing it in ways that are just, they're just blindsiding people. Like, as a jiu-jitsu person, if that doesn't drive you crazy, then I don't like, I don't know what will. So yeah, it's been tough, but I think there's a lot of positive coming from it. Like, yesterday I reached out to a lot of my non-Asian friends. I think I've been really lucky in the sense that, most of the people I grew up mostly in a white town. Like, I was the only Asian kid for a long time. I think I made my first Asian friend when I was in middle school. But I just reached out to a few of them because I look back and it was just like, they never made me feel like an other, ever. Um, and when all these excuses come up every time one of these attacks happens, where it's like, I mean, you hear all kinds of excuses. It's just like, oh, it was mental health, or like it's not racial enough to classify as a hate crime, or
Only 6 of the 8 were,
only
Asian.
six. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just these like really and like, I mean, pull back a little bit and just be like people are dying, and like to just, like, who are you to sit there and like, I don't know, tally up how racist something is, so um but yeah, I have a good handful of like really close non-Asian friends who, they just never made me feel that way. And it wasn't like they had to dance around anything. Like, it was easy. It was just, they just treated me like anyone else. So I just kind of reached out and just gave them my appreciation. And these are actually the same guys I talked about earlier, who they had like my comics from middle school and in high school and stuff like that. So they've got like some original Immortal Choke artwork. But yeah, I'll just say, like, as an Asian community, like we are culturally kind of taught to not speak up, don't make waves. But it's good to see that now people are speaking up. And I don't think I'm the best person to like debate politically or like socio-politically. There are much smarter people and better people equipped to have those debates. But I think where I fit into this whole equation and where I can kind of represent for my community is like through these stories. And like, I don't know, I just feel like that's where we can really connect. Like a few people have DM'd me just that are hurting, the people who have they've been traumatized, or like fetishized by someone for being Asian, and that's why they joined jiu-jitsu. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's just such a heavy thing. I just feel so bad for some of these girls too. They're just, I can't imagine, like, to be traumatized in that way. You come to jiu-jitsu, it already takes so much courage to have that close of contact with people, just to take something up like that, and then to feel loved and embraced by your jiu-jitsu gym. Like we need to expand that out. Like, I just think of, this happens a lot, right? Like we always have occasionally like some goon comes in to your gym and they just start like ragdolling the smaller people or like the girls, and then you have to bring in the mat enforcer, right? So if to give you guys an idea of like what this is kind of feeling like, it's kind of like that, but at least in a gym context, you're kind of you're slap bumping before the ragdolling happens, right?
I mean, Kev is a literal bouncer, so I think he gets that idea more deeply than you'd think.
Yeah, so
I'm the guy. I'm the guy that go, hey, you need to,
you're the mat enforcer.
I gotta kick your ass. Sorry, dude.
Pull him aside.
Yeah.
Hey, Kev, this guy puked on 4 different people. We need you to throw a building.
Yeah, man. So imagine like these, but then imagine these goons they're not picking the fights with the people who are in the game. Right. They're going after the people, like the parents watching, or like yanking people out of the bathroom and doing it. So yeah. It's,
first of all, like, now I feel like a double asshole for fucking making all the fucking like, oh, Jesus Christ. The whole time I'm like, oh, what a fucking dickhead. That's Kevin was like segueing into, well, we've been experiencing some serious racism in the Asian community. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. But like, all seriousness, man, like, racism is horrible, and there's no other way to say it. And it's something in my brain that is just foreign to me, because I just was never raised that way. I was never brought up that way, man. I've grown up with black friends, Puerto Rican friends, Asian friends. It just doesn't. And I say I'm trying to be that guy. I got a black friend. Yeah, I'm trying to be that guy. I don't understand it. It's nothing that I will judge people on who they are. It's just who I am. I've always been that way. Like, I just not a racist person, just not. And the other thing I will say is that, unfortunately, particularly in this circumstance, and this is a recent, surge in Asian racism. It's Asian abuse, I guess. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard. Maybe it just hasn't been reported enough. But racism isn't something that just happens. Racism is taught and learned, and it's regurgitated. Totally. It's regurgitated through whatever false information. You know, we saw it during World War II. The Japanese population was left in concentration camps, and like it's like, bro, I don't even fucking live in Japan. Like I don't even know what the fuck's going on over there. Like I'm not even Japanese. You know, what's the problem, man? I'm sorry that this is happening, but like we're gonna put me in a concentration camp because World War II is going on because you think I'm a spy. So now the entirety of the Asian population is a spy. You know, and we start talking about COVID and just flat out there, COVID and then the Chinese flu. People think like those things don't make a difference. They think they're just random little turns of a phrase. But the reality of it is they start drawing lines of dissension between people by just putting out something as simple as saying the Chinese flu. Now, everyone that appears to be even remotely Chinese, regardless of what your real heritage is automatically responsible for the misinformation and all of the troubles it caused, everything that happened in my life. I can't train jiu-jitsu. I can't go to work anymore because you brought the Chinese flu to my country. You follow the narrative. It saddens me. I think it's a representation of human nature. That's just a disgusting thing that we are better than. We should always strive to be better than that. Just end of discussion. And I commend you for drawing attention to that, Billy, in all seriousness.
Thank you, man. Like, I really appreciate it. And, I know, so it's really good that I think in the Asian community, a lot of us are speaking out a lot more now. And it's great. Like I say, like, keep talking to each other, but, and like donate to these causes if you can, if financially that's how you see you can help. But I think a big thing that can really help is sharing your experiences or stories. Even as if you're kind of like maybe on the outside, like you're non-Asian, but I mean you guys probably train with Asian people. Like I can't emphasize enough how much it meant to me that during all this, people would just randomly reach out and just check in. And usually that leads to just sharing stories. And like you said, Kevin Gallagher, that, like you just had, it's hard to grasp, like growing up, just not understanding like why people can be racist. I mean, because you probably shared experiences with people of color and it's not that different, a lot of times. But we can embrace, the differences that people grow up with too,
Yeah, it's the other side of that really bothers me and irks me the most is the reality that like, even though like I've never had any racism in my direction, I'm a white guy, I'm fine, nobody fucks with me. You know what I mean? Like the reality of people that really truly believe we live in a world where there's no racial intent or no unleveled scales of it like blows my mind that like we still have to look at people and they say things like that. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like that's like, yeah. Like what disillusionment, what are you doing to yourself? What lies are you telling yourself to make you believe that falsehood? Because it's really not the case.
I think a lot of this comes from a lack of, experience. And, I could be, I don't really know much about anything. All I know is that there's a lot of hurting happening right now. And that stuff like this and stuff like what you're doing and your brother's doing are what's going to help, just reminding people that this is a fight we can all be on the same side of. And it's not even a physical one. It's a mental one. It's an emotional one. It's a spiritual one. And you're offering people a concrete way to help because, sometimes people have trouble just donating. They need a little bit of a carrot to the stick, a carrot instead of the stick. And so what you've done is you've slapped these incredibly dope looking chicks on several different pieces of really cool merch, casual wear and rash guards, and 100% of the proceeds are going to charity, trying to inform and combat racism wherever it exists. Could you tell us a little bit more about those efforts? Because I know you partnered with other companies to great success, like a CBD company. You've reached quite a large amount of sales in a short period of time. And unfortunately, these cool ladies are going away April 4th, which is kind of cruel of you to do, is to bring them into our life. Yeah, it's cruel of you. It's really messed up, Billy. You're kind of hurting people with this. Like, why would you
Who's
them
really
into
the
our
bad guy here, Billy?
Yeah, Billy, like,
you guys
analyze the
canceling
hurt
me
you're
right now?
causing. Billy, analyze the hurt you're causing.
Turning the camera back on you there, Billy.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Actually, so fun fact about how I came up with the graphic for the three ladies is, if you've ever bought rice, like the jasmine rice, it's called Three Ladies. So this was sort of like a bit of an homage to them. And in the graphic, it's three Asian girls submitting hate. And yeah, like I said, this is kind of like one of the ways that I think you can help if it's just get some merch out of it. Financially, you're helping. And speaking of people who reached out, and it just meant the world to me. Fight Back CBD. So we actually go really far back. I think we kind of started our Instagram things kind of at the same time. And me and Justin, we were just always had this sort of like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours sort of relationship. I did a lot of his graphics for his rash guards, his gi and stuff like that. And I just, try to promote him whenever I can. And he just came out of the blue, and just checked in on me and just like letting me know, like, what's going on right now is crazy, but I want to help however I can. And he just straight up was just like, hey, like if you hit 1,000 sales, like $1,000 in sales, then I'll match that. Like I'll donate $1,000. And I was just like in tears. It's just, again, I can't emphasize enough, checking on your Asian friends. Like I'm telling you, like culturally, we're so used to just staying in the shadows, and sometimes we stay quiet for so long. Like even just acknowledging that we exist, as sad as it sounds, like just the acknowledgement that we exist and that there is pain is like it's crazy. Like I caught my wife crying the other day just because her work acknowledged this. It's but yeah, anyways, so that was crazy. That was yesterday. We posted that, and then I think it was by midnight or something, we already surpassed $1,000 in sales. So he's gonna match the $1,000. And then I also need to shout out Jits_bitch on Instagram.
Jits
like
bitch, yeah.
She's awesome, and she's another person who always supports me, and just talking to her through the DMs, like she's one of the people I would say like she gets it. And so I'm just really grateful for all the support from my fellow Asians and also my non-Asians and all my Kevins out there. As rocky of a relationship that we have, but
I feel like I feel like I at least got us back to like close to
neutral.
You're still not sure if you dig me or not, but at least you don't hate me anymore.
It might just be a push and pull relationship. I don't know.
My little seguilically at the end might have saved me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm keeping score.
I too would like to take a stand against hate in the community.
I'm planting my flag.
Oh, and I should also say that the proceeds are all going to Stop AAPI Hate and National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum.
How did you narrow down those charities? Was it obvious who you wanted to work with at the beginning, or did you do a little bit of research once this started gaining traction?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I think Stop AAPI Hate is kind of the big one right now, and they're doing most of the reporting. It's kind of like the go-to source of reporting Asian hate crimes. So that, and then so the other one, I really wanted to emphasize the supporting Asian women because they are being targeted right now. I think it's like 68% of the crimes that occur are on Asian women. And, I can't help but think of my wife whenever it's that, like my wife or my aunts, my grandmas, like, on top of being a culture that's very, passive and told to be quiet. you're also a woman. And then if you know anything about women in Asian cultures, it's hard. it's really hard. So I just want to do right now whatever I can to support and uplift women, especially.